Welcome, everyone. I'm Chris Dobbin, and I'm thrilled to have you at this week's episode of Amplify Your Brand, the ultimate live on branding your powerful brand in a digital age. Along with my friend and fellow colleague there, Samoa, we're happy to share our expertise and help you brand yourself to the next level. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a small business owner, or a marketing professional, or a personal brand, this is a live stream packed with practical insights and strategies that will help you amplify your brand and make you stand out in a crowded digital landscape. So please get ready, take some notes, put together what you learn into action, because by the end of this live stream, we will hopefully give you a closer look into the roadmap that you need to build your brand that truly resonates with your target audience. So thanks for joining us today, and let's find another way to amplify your brand. And today's topic is a big one. It's basically brought everything we've been talking about for the last few weeks together, and it's all about understanding your why and how you develop it. So, Sim, I guess I'll kick it off by you and just talking about why is this such a big topic?
Because the why is basically the root reason for how and what we do at every level of our existence. Let's not get too esoteric just yet, but the why is the platform for everything, for behavior, for the audience to feel the connection to your brand or not, and for you to orient every action within your marketing efforts.
That's a good way to summarize it. So I'll bring it back up onto the screen and we'll go through the usual format we go through, but also just applying this to our P8 program. So if you're not aware of our P8 program, this is what we're working through to highlight some of the key aspects of this program. And we are currently in the purpose part of the process. And if you're interested in learning more about what the P8 program is, we are more than happy to hear from you to discuss how it can apply to amplifying your brand. Now, there's a good-looking guy on the screen there, and he's showing you how to identify and develop it. And we're using some Simon Sinek's approach to this about the developing the why in the middle, the golden circle, developing your why, then your how, and getting to your what, which resonates with your people. If most people are doing it in reverse and talking about the what and the how, and then forgetting that why comes after it. So developing your why is a critical step in building a strong and compelling brand. Your why is your reason for existing, your purpose, and the values that drive your business. It's a foundation upon which you build your brand, and it informs everything from your messaging to your marketing strategy. So pretty important and pretty much recaps what our man Samoa said at the beginning. So those that have a why, actually, I'll hand this over to you. This is your fancy artwork. So what do we got here?
I wanted to include this slide today because this was a book that really put a flag in my own why doing things. It reminded me and rooted even more the reasons why I started looking at other options and a way to conduct myself. And this was right at the stage of me considering moving out of Portugal, where I come from, and really understanding why is it that I'm doing this. In this book, I actually have a hard copy for everyone to see. The cover has been changed a number of times, but if you do a screenshot of this image on your screen, Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, this is hugely helpful for anybody and most, I would say everybody, because we all have our whys. We may not be always aware of what they are, and we may not always have them present at the beginning and the end of our days, which may drift us apart from that why. And every now and then, a book, a person, a situation comes along that reminds us of what that why exists and which why that is. This book did that for me. I highly recommend it to everybody to read it because it's a beautiful story of a man who went through the atrocities of the Holocaust. He was a surgeon, a psychiatrist, a very successful one, who was separated from his wife when the World War broke out. He got taken into concentration camps, and to summarize the entire story, he became very aware that everywhere he looked while he was under these concentration camps with torturous conditions and subhuman living arrangements, he noticed that every person had a breaking point. That breaking point was deeply, deeply tied to their why. when people don't have a strong root reason, this is so strong it's giving me the shivers right now. When a person misses their core why, everything else falls apart. And he noticed this in his colleagues in throughout his predicament, that at that point where people lost their why, they were broken within 1 week. They would be either vanished, sickened to death, or just taken away into the chambers. This is a must for everybody watching, and today's episode of Amplify Your Brand will cover everything about whys.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Well, good to see some passion in your approach to that. And I guess if people haven't got a reading list, they now have one book at least to add to that and should get onto it. So to develop your why, what we hope we're going to help you achieve today is the questions that really help you get there. So look, take the notes, work on this, work through this if you can. And this, as I said, this is part of how we go about it in our P8 program. We have a few more little tricks and tips that we go through with people when we're face to face with you, but please take on board. So the first one is, what inspired you to start your business? Now, last week's episode was about this, so we won't go too deep into this, but ideally you want to understand what problem you're trying to solve or what opportunity you see and what got you there in the first place to start this. So again, we'll touch on it, but again, we spent a whole episode last week on this, but we'll recap it. So Sim, I guess, why is this important to understanding your why?
Well, because the immediate answer we have in our experience when we interact with our clients is that, why do you do the business that you do? And the first answer is the easiest and the most superficial one as well, which is, I need to pay my bills. I need to put my kids through school. I need the practical unfolding of why they're doing business, and the consequences of doing so affects this very superficial layer of why they do what they do. So one exercise that I want to throw in right away for everybody going through these steps is apply the 5 steps of why. Go 5 levels deep, and you will be a lot closer to your true why than just merely paying your bills and going about your day. You will have found a niche or a certain something that ties to your technical skill, and that's probably what drove you to start your business. But again, you need to understand how this measures up in your true scale of whys. Go through the 5 steps of the why and dare yourself to give a better answer each time. You'll like That's what right. You find at the other end.
Yeah, no, it's almost like you've got to be, for those out there with kids, you've got to be the kid that goes, why? 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 Now,
that's brilliant.
As a parent that did that this morning 5 times, trying to get my kids to get dressed and things like that. I love your approach, because it maybe not be 5 times with my kids, it might be 75, but no, it was definitely more than once. But each time I came up with a why, the kids got clearer and clearer and clearer on why this actually mattered, right? So your approach, in life, in general, in business, it's the same thing, but I like it. Go 5 questions deep into why and see what you come up with.
And I'm not even a parent.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So another thing that we touched on in another episode in a lot deeper way is, what are your core values as a business? What do you believe in? What principles guide your decisions and actions? Now, again, as I said, you can go back to that episode, and we will go through that in a much deeper level. But for this episode, it's really just quickly, how do we summarize why core values matter to developing a why?
Well, they're the pillars. They're the pillars of everything. You can throw up a number of trendy words or great looking values, but if you don't embody them, you will die by them. So it's really a case of living and dying by the sword, and you get to identify which sword that is, how many of those swords you're holding. That's and right. Usually there are 3 to 5 values that most really strong brands hold dear to their heart, and they live by them. We've gone through the examples of Apple. We've gone through the examples of
And we'll
The
revisit them later on today, Patagonia and
yes,
Nike and all those ones. So that'll come up later.
yes.
Well, hey, we've done pretty well this week. We've taken this long to get into sneak previews. we normally chuck those in way earlier. Love your
Give
work.
away the gold within 2 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I had a client this morning was asking these kind of things too, and we were talking about the core values in writing his about story, and I sort of said to him, like, it's no use me telling you to just write what you think your client wants, because if you
Yeah.
do that and then you don't believe in it, when they come to work with you, the expectation of you're going to do it a certain way will be just trashed, because
Yeah.
you've sold them a story that's not real. So
Yeah.
if you have, and in this case, the client has some real interest in about sustainability, and I guess if they went out there with that sustainability story and then the clients come to them to get sustainable work delivered, and he goes, no, let's use this plastic stuff. let's use this, stuff that 1,000 trees have been knocked down for to make this one product that's about this thick. Let's do that. All of a sudden, the client straight away that they're working with would go, hang on, I'm here for a sustainability project. I want to keep this as environmentally friendly as possible. What are you doing? So that's just a great example of how understanding your core values and how you attract clients and what you do can straight away break down barriers.
That is a fantastic demonstration of why core values matter so much. And here's the inward facing repercussions of not being aligned with those core values. You tend to attract clients, but before you attract clients, you attract talent. For the brands that think this is an exercise only for the outside world, think again, please, because you will attract people that reflect your values and act according to them in their daily doings of the business. This is very, very important, because by the culture, you will also be asked to uphold those values or die by the lack thereof.
That's right. Yep. So there you go. Core values. Why it's important. Moving on to the next one. Who is your ideal customer and what problems or needs do you have that your business can address? So this, again, is part of the who process. But if you understand that someone is getting up in the morning, they've got this problem, it hangs around with them all day, they go to bed and then wake up the next day and they've still got that problem and they're just putting up with it. If you can burst that routine by saying, I have a solution to it, I can help you, you will yourself get out of bed in the morning and want to help that person, but you're going to change that person's life, which means if you change their person's life and make that better for them, they're going to get excited to want to work with you. So it's really, again, understanding why your business is in business and who you're helping is a great understanding of something, understanding why you do what you do and putting that into your marketing activities to attract like for like. Someone that's got a problem and you solve it.
Yes. And the case is that you will usually have gone through these problems yourselves. And never have I seen a better reflection of this into businesses or personal brands that exercise has business than in the coaching space. Many coaches that I work and know of, they're in this very unique position because they have been the people they're now talking to and have overcome.
Yep.
When they don't, that also creates a repercussion because they're talking in theory, they're talking about non-practical principles that haven't applied. So the example being, taking life coaching lessons from my 22-year-old might not be the best hiring for somebody looking to improve their life conditions at 40, 50 years old, because the 22-year-old probably has not been through the same pits and falls of life and probably hasn't even been given the chance to fall as many times as the 40, 50-year-old and gotten up from those with the learnings to go with it.
That's right. Yeah. No, love it. So we then have the next question here is what makes your business unique? What sets you apart from your competitors and why should customers choose you over other options out there. The amount of times a client tells me they're unique, and honestly, what people forget about this uniqueness too is sometimes it's not even that you may have something that's unique, but if you're in an industry where everyone expects something to be done a certain way, you're just noise. Like you've got to be clear in how you communicate why that uniqueness is important. And we touched on that in a episode a couple of weeks ago where we talked about using the word new. And if you can be new, doesn't mean bad. It can be new and different. So being different straight away suggests you're unique.
Absolutely. That's the highlight of this particular point, which Chris rightly brought up. It doesn't need to be better. It doesn't need to be new. It needs to be different. And by difference, you can start by looking at how are you different than everybody in this space? Because you have your own tone of voice, you have your life experience, you've gone through the peaks and troughs of your own experience, and you will have a slightly different perspective than somebody who competes in the same space and provides their value. You will have a different way of providing that value, whatever that is. That starts to be a difference in how you approach and how you deliver your service and product. And this is something that begins forming the differentiation point of your brand. Now, you want to get deeper, of course, but keep in mind that you already have something that is intrinsically different to everybody else. Don't think that you can't be different because you do the same, but think past that and look at everything that you do and how you deliver, because there you will find certain patterns and certain differences in how you achieve the results for your audience.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, in a very superficial way, sometimes what we've done with clients is we looked at the industry, and if everyone in the industry is blue, then we tell them to be pink, green, yellow, whatever it is. Just be a different color in your branding so that you stand out. If everyone's using photos, maybe you need to use illustrations. If people are all using Times New Roman, then maybe you need to go a different pathway and not use Times New Roman. Now, not that we ever recommend anyone use Times New Roman, but if you do notice a brand out there using that, please send them our way and we'll have a great conversation with them about why not to use that.
As Chris is explaining this example, a pink cement truck came to mind. Going through the streets of Melbourne, I don't remember in particular any cement trucks, but I do remember the pink cement truck from this particular company that I kept seeing going back and forth, and that stood up in my mind. That could be a difference, and how you develop that difference into your values and everything else in your messaging may be your differentiation point with a winning value to it.
That's right. Yeah. Or it can be the way, like you touched on, the way that they deliver the service. So if nobody in your industry will do it a certain way, is there a reason for you to do it that way so that you stand out and be that one that does it that way, because that's what the consumers want, and you're going to go that extra step that no one else will do, and straight away that puts you in a point of difference. Like, these are things you need to do to stand out in a very, very, very cluttered market that we have in whatever industry you are today. So,
yeah.
And the reason for touching base on that one is obviously looking at what makes your business unique. So I'm touching on all of this. Obviously, once you have a clear understanding of your why, you can start building a brand around it. This develops messages, the way you communicate, the values, purpose, choosing visual elements like colors, fonts, and imagery that align with your brand identity, and creating marketing campaigns that highlight what makes your business special. And I think we've touched on that pretty well across all of these items that we've touched on today. And obviously, this is why we want you to take away from today that what will make your brand memorable and compelling to your customers, so that it's worth taking the time. Obviously, it's worth taking the time to get it right. So this is one reason why we spend a lot of time on this with our clients. And I guess this is a good time for us to just take a moment and have a look at some brands. We do this every week that have done this really, really well. So the first one, and we're going to go with some of the ones we've already done over the last few weeks so that it keeps it familiar with everyone that's out there. Airbnb, we touched on this last week. We talked about their backstory and how they came about. But in doing that, they also created their why. They wanted to create a world where anyone can belong anywhere. So this was done by the power of the human connection, the cultural exchange. Their platform enables people to share their homes and experience with travelers from around the world. Its messaging emphasizes the importance of community, diversity, and belonging. It seems like such a simple concept, Airbnb, but the idea that your house is unique and someone may want to live in it or stay in it because they're from, another country, and the country's experience is so different to how we're based here today, recording this in Australia. You're in Sydney, I'm in Melbourne. Even that, just you being in Sydney, me in Melbourne, we've got different ways we can show people Australia and what the experience can be. And that's what, Airbnb can do quite well, where, living in a hotel, you can be a tourist, but you're going to be in that hotel touristy environment. Yeah. So the idea that you can go to these obscure places in the suburbs and you can actually live in the suburb of choice is, a novelty. And Airbnb do that so well.
Yes. Very good example.
Their Airbnb, like their recent ad at the moment, is someone trying to call somebody, and it's just photos of that person on their holiday. And they won't answer the call because they're so busy enjoying themselves, living this experiment on an island in a unique place. Right. And all the photos of things they're not just your typical holiday. They're things that, only this place can give you because it's so isolated.
Provide as an experience, right?
Yeah.
I haven't got that one yet.
Yeah. So Tesla, we've touched on this. They wanted to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. We touched on this last week. It wasn't like the greatest business model because it was going to be expensive to do this, but they had to do it because they really believed we had to change. So they were driven by that, by creating the future where transportation is sustainable, efficient, and powered by renewable energy. And this is something that is the absolute opposite of what was going on 5-10 years ago. No one was thinking about these kind of things. They were talking about it in certain other industries. When it comes to cars, it was just too hard. So they went there.
There's too much infrastructure to fight and too much standardization. The status quo is heavily set at all levels. Customer service, maintenance, creation of the first few prototypes. That's why one of the Teslas are ridiculously expensive, because they're the pioneers in the line of future cars, we hope. But they just went up against too much standardization, and they're finally being able to break through.
Yeah, but not to go too deep into this because we could create a whole episode around this pun, but a lot of these products that have innovated were the most expensive product on the market at the time when they were launched. And then over time, with the early adopters and the community, just getting out there, gradually what happens, and the time scale on this used to be 10, 15, 20 years. These days, because of the way technology, the internet, and the way we get, take information in, this is accelerated to ridiculous timelines of months, weeks, days, hours.
Correct.
It's just a different time scale. But the original phone that we all carry around in our pockets now, and we're happy to pay what we pay for it, those first ones were tens of thousands of dollars.
Yes, it's ridiculous.
And we used to call it, remember, I don't know whether you remember, but I do remember being anyone that had one of those bricks was a yuppie or a wanker, or there was a particular look we gave those people. Why would you carry a phone around?
Probably drives a convertible Corvette.
Yeah. I was watching a cartoon. I saw a cartoon come up my feed this morning, and it was like somebody looking at their phone, and it was ringing, and he goes, "I don't use my phone for that." It's like, why is someone ringing me? Like, I don't use my phone for people to talk to. I want to play on it. So, again, phones have just come so far in what they actually are. So. So touching back on Tesla there, they were relentless in their pursuit of innovation, obviously coupled with Musk as a leader. He propelled them to become a major player in this market, or basically define it as it is today. Patagonia is another brand that we've touched on over the last few weeks, and their why is to save the planet. Now, obviously it's in line with what Tesla are doing, but they're applying it to products that are outdoor products that minimize the environmental impact. They actively are known for their activism and dedicated to these environmental and social causes, and they actively communicate their why in everything they do. And it comes back to those products I was talking about earlier. They do that through the campaigns, the initiatives. They promote sustainability and responsible consumption. So when you buy their products, you actually know what you're buying. They explain it to you. They show you what it is. They actually tell you the percentage of sustainable materials, where it's sourced from, all these kind of things. It's quite amazing how they go about it. On the absolute opposite extreme, we've got Nike, which is all about inspiring and motivating athletes. So their brand is centered around the idea that everyone has the potential to achieve greatness, and they aim to create products and experiences that help people unlock their athletic potential. So, like a lot of brands aspire to do this, but how you do it and understanding your why. So they always know when they're launching something, it has to have some connection to inspiring someone to want to go out and run, jog, be the world number one, whatever it is. They just always know what they're doing has that lead to it. So their Just Do It campaign is a prime example of how they communicate their why by encouraging people to push their limits and pursue their passions. So the Just Do It, it's other than the real negative reason what Just Do It actually came from and where it meant, but as a thing where you just like you're on the edge of a cliff and it's just like, just do whatever it is, just get it done. It's inspirational, and it's done so simply with those 3 words.
Yeah, very defining at the same time. It pulls out the Olympian in all of the brand consumers.
Well, because we've all been there where we don't want to get out there in the morning and do that exercise of whatever sort, whether it's just walking or it's
or running in the rain,
or lifting weights,
going for the extra rep.
All that kind of stuff, right? We've all been there. I myself have ways of tricking myself into doing these things these days, so I'm pretty motivated with that. But not everyone has it. But you've got to understand your purpose and your why, and if you have that in place, then you only have to say just do it, and you will. You'll just go do what you have to do.
You activate it. Again, this is where coaches do such a great job, because once they tap into people's whys, they're able to create an anchor to that why, and they condition that why. Tony Robbins is the king of this, of conditioning. Once he finds out a person's why, he will activate it and bring it to a level 10, and activate it and bring it to a level 20, and keep going. And this is what creates such high achievers in that coaching analogy.
Exactly, yeah. And finally, we're going to touch on the classic Apple, which Simon Sinek does in his presentation. He does talk about this why. And it's obviously they look at challenging the status quo and empower individuals through technology. They believe in making products that are beautifully designed, user-friendly, and innovative. They will get to where they're going with their why, and their marketing produces messages consistently revolving around their core belief that thinking differently and pushing the boundaries of what's possible will achieve their goal of why. So they are just a bit of a unicorn when it comes to other brands, and that's why they're always the one that people talk to most of, because it literally is, for whatever reason, in the technology area, the people are very good technicians. Like I guarantee that Google have some products that are just so much better than Apple's, but the way they communicate it is so different, and the way they've got to their journey, their why, how they got where they are, not as many people buy into it. So
that's right.
The amount of people that the Android versus being an Apple person, there's a whole story around that. We could do a whole episode on that I guarantee has been done before. But that's just another clear example of why this matters. So So we are coming to the end of this week's episode. Hopefully what we've done is given you some insights and key questions that you need to use to develop your why. And if you need to reach out to us for whatever reason, we're more than happy to hear from you to discuss how we go about helping you get there and understanding the why and where it fits into your branding and moving forward on that communication. Do you have any final comments for today, Sim?
Make the why the base for everything that you do. This extends beyond business and beyond branding and beyond marketing. This is really the core to every person's existence. And I'll just part ways for today with the book again that I've brought up earlier in the session, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. This will definitely help you frame everything around your why. And if you need more practical exercises to achieve that for your brand in particular, we are more than happy to have that conversation with you.
That's right. So if you want to, please check out the previous episodes that have led up to this one today, because they will help branch out further and go deeper into some of the topics we touched on in those questions, and going a few steps deeper, like Simone mentioned, the 5 times why. Hopefully you can apply that to life, and we look forward to when you're doing it for the 5th or 6th time, what comes up, and whether your why, where you started and where you end up, is different. Other than that, it's been fantastic to have you aboard this week and to work with us through the questions that lead to finding out your why, and look forward to amplifying your brand. Catch you next week.
See ya.